Do you love novels, but don't have time to read thousands of chapters? Imagine listening to your favorite stories anytime, anywhere, while driving, working, or relaxing. Here, you'll find premium audiobooks from Pocket FM, Audible, Webnovel, Wuxia, and more, all in one place. Every novel is a one-time payment, no subscriptions, no monthly fees, lifetime access. The full novel list and prices are in the description below. Once you choose a novel, just DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-fi, or Patreon, you get permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. And if the novel is ongoing, all future updates are included. Check the description, pick your story, and start listening today. Before we start the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Enjoy, and let's go.
551, Chapter 551. Although Ryaji said that Zenitsu Agatsuma liked to take advantage of girls, Zenitsu Agatsuma's character was definitely not a problem. Zenitsu would definitely not do things like digging a wall, so Ryaji felt that there was no big problem with Uzui Tengen taking Zenitsu as his adopted son. However, Uzui Tengen did not care about this point, but rather was very interested in Ryaji saying that Zenitsu Agatsuma was a 5-second real man, so he asked, "How do you know that Zenitsu is a 5-second real man? Have you and him ever gone to the entertainment district to play together? This kid is so young, I didn't expect him to be so unsustainable." Uzui Tengen did not avoid this topic at all, because everyone was an adult, and it was normal to have needs in this area, so Uzui Tengen did not think there was anything wrong with Ryaji going to the entertainment district to play. Hearing these words, Ryaji then knew that Uzui Tengen had deliberately misunderstood the meaning of his words, so he said, "I'm talking about his fighting style. Zenitsu is not suitable for a prolonged battle, because he only knows the thunderclap and flash of thunder breathing. If this move cannot have an effect on the enemy, then the situation will be extremely unfavorable to him." Hearing Ryaji's words, Uzui Tengen then knew that Zenitsu Agatsuma only knew one breathing technique. In this way, this would become Zenitsu Agatsuma's biggest weakness. Could it be that Zenitsu can't learn other moves, so he simply trains one move to the extreme? Kyojuro Rengoku interjected at this time. "I didn't expect Zenitsu to have such a big weakness. If this is the case, then he can only make up for it from other aspects." Uzui Tengu also said. Since Zenitsu's situation was like this, then it was obviously not that he was unwilling to learn other moves, but rather that he really could not learn them, so he could only train the only move he mastered to the extreme. "That should be right," Ryaji said lightly. Ryaji completed the treatment for Kyojuro Rengoku while discussing Zenitsu Agatsuma. Afterwards Ryaji then proceeded to treat Uzui Tengen. His situation was the most serious, so it took the longest time. After finishing the treatment for Kyojuro Rengoku and Uzui Tengen, Ryaji was also somewhat tired. Uzui Tengen then instructed his 3 wives to give Ryaji a full-body relaxation massage. This could be considered as them being able to repay Ryaji. After all, he could not let his wives promise themselves to Ryaji. And Makio, Suma, and Hinatsuru's massage techniques were also first-class. Ryaji did not refuse, and left after enjoying the massage. Afterwards, Ryaji went to see Tanjiro, Zenitsu Agatsuma, and Hattori Kyujo. Tanjiro had Kaneo guarding him. Zenitsu Agatsuma also had Aoi Kanzaki checking on him regularly. As for Hattori Kyujo, she was still often alone in the hospital bed. That one logic Inashuk was completely immersed in training. It seemed that the unsuccessful return from this trip to the entertainment district had a big impact on him. After knowing that everyone was fine, Inashuk had not come to visit the comatose Tanjiro and Zenitsu Agatsuma and the injured Hattori Kyujo. After coming to the ward where Tanjiro, Zenitsu Agatsuma, and Hattori Kyujo were, Ryaji then saw Sakata Siakairo and Inoue Kenta, as well as the Murata brothers, 4 people surrounding Hattori Kyujo's hospital bed, chatting with Hattori Kyujo. 552, Chapter 552. Hattori Kyujo was also somewhat happy to tell them about everything that happened in the entertainment district. Everyone envied Hattori Kyujo. Although Hattori Kyujo was injured by the upper moon, she at least had the opportunity to contact the upper moon. The only most powerful demon they had ever contacted was Lower Moon 5 of Mount Nadagumo, because their strength was not strong at the time, and they did not receive Ryaji's special training. Lower Moon 5 had the deepest impact on them. As for the Mugen train incident, Lower Moon too, although they also fought very hard, they at least had the ability to rival it, so Lower Moon too did not cause them too deep a shadow. And they had only met the Upper Moon demons, and had not had any real contact. From the trip to the entertainment district, the three pillars were seriously injured when facing the head of the Upper Moons, Kokushibo. They also knew the power of Kokushibo in their hearts. But this also further confirmed Raiji's power. During the Mugen train incident, Kyojuro Rengoku was able to be unharmed by Kokushibo. This was definitely because Raiji's support was timely, not because Kyojuro Rengoku could rival Kokushibo. If Kyojuro Rengoku could rival Kokushibo, then there would have been no reason for him to be injured during this trip to the entertainment district. And Raiji returned unharmed this time facing the Upper Moon demons, and this time he also killed an Upper Moon demon. This further illustrated Raiji's power, an existence more powerful than the pillars. Having such an awesome squad leader, Suichiro, Kenta, Shinichi, and Shinji were all very proud in their hearts, although they were in the second squad, and did not have the ability to participate in the frontline battles, they were still proud. And Raiji had become a godlike existence in their hearts, and Zanjutsu had also become their mark, the glory they had to protect. Did you come to see Kyujo specifically? You look like a team, the name of the Zanjutsu squad will definitely shine on you. Raiji came behind everyone, and then said with a smile to the four who were talking enthusiastically. Raiji's voice suddenly made the four people's bodies stiffen, and then stood up. Afterwards, the four people turned to face Raiji, and then said to Raiji very respectfully, "Captain Raiji." Raiji swept his gaze over the four who were getting along very well, and was also very happy in his heart. The concept of the Zanjutsu squad was unity and mutual assistance, condensing personal strength together, and then transforming it into a more powerful force. Did you just come back? Raiji asked everyone. Yes, we only came back at noon today. After knowing about Captain Raiji's affairs in the Yoshiwara Entertainment District, we immediately came to visit Vice Captain Kyujo. Murata Shinji then acted as the spokesperson, and replied to Raiji. Very good. Inashuk is now immersed in his special training, Tanjiro and Zenitsu are still in a coma, and I also have a lot of trivia on my body now, so if you have time, come and see Kyujo, don't let Kyujo be too lonely. Raiji then said. That's for sure. If we don't have to go on a mission, we guarantee to come and accompany Kyujo every day. The older brother Murata Shinichi then guaranteed said. Kyujo, you also have to understand Inashuk. Inashuk is busy training himself, so he doesn't have time to come and see you. Raiji then said for Inashuk at this time. 553, Chapter 553. The reason why Raiji spoke for Inashuk was that he did not want Inashuk to leave a bad impression in Hattori Kyujo's heart. After all, Inashuk, as a member of the first squad of the Zanjutsu squad, had not come to visit the injured team member even once. This was indeed a loss of heart. However, this was not Inashuk's fault. After all, his mentality had changed during this trip to the entertainment district. And if he came to visit Hattori Kyujo alone, the two would not have much conversation, because Inashuk was not very good at getting along with girls, so it was unlikely that Inashuk would find a topic to talk to a girl. Multiple factors led to Inashuk no initiative coming to visit Hattori Kyujo. If Tanjiro and Zenitsu Agatsuma had not been in a coma, it was estimated that Inashuk would have followed them, and incidentally visited Hattori Kyujo. It's okay. His hard training is definitely to be like Captain Raiji, to have the ability to protect everyone at critical moments. Hattori Kyujo did not care too much about Inashuk not coming to visit her, but rather understood Inashuk. Because she had contacted Inashuk so many times, Hattori Kyujo had a certain understanding of what kind of person Inashuk was. If Inashuk was accompany her at all times at this time, that would be extremely abnormal. However, it had to be said that this time was indeed the easiest time to capture Hattori Kyujo's heart. If it was not because of Inashuk's personality, if it was a more normal man, he should have the idea of taking good care of such a big beauty as Hattori Kyujo, and maybe he could also gain a wife. Afterwards, Raiji took the time to visit Hattori Kyujo, and after treating her physical injuries, he left. Murata and the other three had nothing to do, so they planned to accompany her a little longer. The next day, early in the morning, Hinaki Yubayashiki and Kiriya Yubayashiki came to the Butterfly Mansion and found Raiji. Kiriya Yubayashiki was Kaguya Yubayashiki's son, and also the black-haired, big-eyed little loli who was confessed to by Zenitsu Agatsuma on Mount Fujikazan last time. In fact, Kiriya Yubayashiki was a male, but he was very cute, and he was dressed in women's clothing that time, so it was normal to be mistaken for a girl. If it was not for Zenitsu Agatsuma's play, Ryaji would not have really found out that he was a boy. However, this time Kiriya Yubayashiki was still dressed the same as Hinaki, except for the hair color. The two had almost the same facial features. It was unknown whether after puberty, Kiriya Yubayashiki's appearance would begin to differ from Hinaki's due to male hormones. If not, then Kiriya Yubayashiki was estimated to have to wear a woman's face as a man like in a shuk. Kiriya Yubayashiki and Hinaki Yubayashiki stood obediently outside the house in the backyard where Ryaji lived, looking at Ryaji who came out. The two politely greeted Ryaji. "Good morning, Ryaji-kun." Ryaji was also somewhat surprised when he saw Kiriya and Hinaki, but soon Ryaji understood that the two of them were here to learn wood breathing from him. Kaguya Yubayashiki had said yesterday that he would let his children try to learn wood breathing. He did not expect the efficiency to be so fast, and they were arranged to come the next day. "Good morning." Ryaji also squatted down, and then stretched out his hands, touching Hinaki and Kiriya's heads with one hand each, and then said, "Let me guess. The one who came is Hinaki, right?" "Correct answer, but there is no reward," Hinaki said in a mechanical tone. 554, Chapter 554. "Then what's your name? Are you an older brother or a younger brother?" Ryaji then looked at Kiriya and asked. "My name is Kiriya Yubayashiki, I am Hinaki's younger brother," Kiriya replied. Ryaji then looked at the luggage that the siblings were carrying on their backs, and could not help but laugh. Looking at this posture, they were obviously going to stay at the Butterfly Mansion. This was definitely specially arranged by Kaguya Yubayashiki. By arranging Hinaki to come over, Kaguya Yubayashiki obviously already knew about him and Hinaki's future. "Are you planning to live in the Butterfly Mansion for a long time?" Ryaji asked with a smile again. "Yes," the siblings said in unison. "Before we master the wood breathing you mentioned, we will stay in the Butterfly Mansion." Hinaki then said, "Come with me." Ryaji did not have any objections to this, and then got up to take the Hinaki siblings to find a room to them. Because Ryaji and Shinobu Koko were already in a relationship, the two did not sleep in separate rooms anymore, and the room that Shinobu Koko's sister had lived in before was empty again. The Yubayashiki siblings were arranged in that room by Ryaji. And after leading the siblings into the room, Ryaji ran into Kaneo who had gotten up. After Ryaji saw Kaneo, he knew that Kaneo was going to prepare breakfast. After asking the Yubayashiki siblings if they had eaten breakfast, he then asked Kaneo to prepare 2 more portions. After the Yubayashiki siblings came to the room they were going to stay in, they put their luggage in the room. Afterwards, the group came to the hall to eat. Shinobu Koko was also extremely happy about Hinaki and Kiriya's arrival, and then chatted with the siblings like an older sister. After chatting for a while, the group then began to eat breakfast. Because they were eating sushi rolls, Shinobu Koko did not need Ryaji to feed her this time, and could completely use her other uninjured arm to take the food. Hinaki and Kiriya ate very elegantly. It could be seen that they had received special etiquette training. After breakfast, Kiriya then asked Ryaji, "Ryaji-kun, when will we start learning wood breathing?" Seeing Kiriya's impatient appearance, Ryaji did not decline, but rather looked at Shinobu Koko, and then asked, "Shinobu, do you want to try learning it too?" Hearing these words, Shinobu Koko did not hesitate too much, and then nodded. Shinobu Koko did not really have much hope, because mastering 2 kinds of breathing was not an easy thing. Shinobu Koko's purpose was more to understand it. If she could learn it, that would naturally be good. If she could not learn it, she would not force it. "Kaneo, do you want to try learning it too?" Shinobu Koko then asked Kaneo. Kaneo then asked, "Learn what?" "A brand new, auxiliary breathing with healing abilities," Shinobu Koko replied. Afterwards, the dishes were cleared away, and the hall was empty. Shinobu Koko, Kaneo, Hinaki, and Kiriya all knelt down opposite Ryaji. Because this was not physical training, there was no need to go outdoors. Ryaji's expression also became serious, and then he began to teach. To learn wood breathing, you must understand it from a theoretical level. Wood breathing, as a breathing technique, has specific breathing frequencies and rhythms like other breathing techniques. 555, Chapter 555. The normal way people breathe is through the movement of the lungs under the stimulation of the body's instincts. This kind of breathing has no regularity and cannot produce a breathing rhythm. Every breathing technique has its own exclusive rhythm, and the rhythm is maintained by the unique frequency of the breathing. Only when the frequency is synchronized will the rhythm be produced. Shinobu Koko, Kaneo, Hinaki, and Kiriya listened very carefully to Ryaji's every word and action. As a pillar, Shinobu Koko also knew that the theories Ryaji was talking about were very important. Although she knew them, and Kaneo also knew them, they did not interrupt Ryaji, because Hinaki and Kiriya, who had not learned breathing techniques, obviously did not know these things. To master breathing techniques, these theoretical knowledge was indispensable. And the rhythm will induce the corresponding molecules in the air, like the water rhythm produced by water breathing will induce the water molecules in the air, and when the water molecules gather to a certain amount, they will materialize. As Ryaji spoke, he used water breathing, and then Ryaji spread the palm of one hand in front of everyone, and a water ball appeared in Ryaji's palm, and under Ryaji's control, the water ball turned into a water dragon and coiled around Ryaji's forearm, and then the water dragon turned into 4 water butterflies and flapped its wings towards the 4. This time, even Shinobu Koko, who was a pillar, felt it was extremely magical. Shinobu Koko had not seen anyone use breathing to such an extent. No wonder Ryaji was so powerful. It was only possible to do this so freely if he had completely mastered the mysteries in breathing. Everyone could not help but reach out, seemingly wanting the water butterflies to stop on their fingers. However, just as the water butterflies touched the 4 people's fingers, the water butterflies collapsed at once, turning into tiny water mist. And the reason why those water butterflies collapsed suddenly just now was because the distance exceeded the range induced by Ryaji's water rhythm, so the water butterflies turned into water mist. Then Ryaji used flame breathing again, and a ball of fire burned in Ryaji's palm again. Seeing this, Shinobu Koko's eyes suddenly showed surprise, because she felt that Ryaji was using Kyojuro Rengoku's flame breathing. Shinobu Koko really did not know about this. When did Ryaji learn it? A monster-like genius. This was the evaluation of her man in Shinobu Koko's mind, a man more talented than Michiro Tokaito. Perhaps Ryaji's achievements would be the same as Yoriaki Tsujikuni back then. And looking at Ryaji's mastery, it seemed that he had also mastered flame breathing to the point of perfection. If this matter was known by Kyojuro Rengoku, his name as the flame pillar might have been provoked. The flame rhythm of flame breathing will induce the combustible molecules in the air, causing them to burn. As for wood breathing, its rhythm will induce the vitality contained in nature, and these vitality gathered together will become wood spirit energy, and injecting a suitable amount of wood spirit energy into the body will revitalize the body, and also have the effect of healing the body. As he spoke, Ryaji switched from flame breathing to wood breathing, and then a rich wood spirit energy gathered in Ryaji's palm. After speaking, a bee flew into the hall. Ryaji grabbed it with lightning speed, and then grabbed it in his hand, and wrapped it with wood spirit energy. 556, Chapter 556. On the contrary, if too much wood spirit energy is injected, it will have the opposite effect, causing the body's cells to be unable to withstand such a powerful vitality, and eventually die. As Ryaji spoke, he injected an excessive amount of wood spirit energy into the bee in his palm, and the bee died before it could react. But a large amount of wood spirit energy was still in its body, and after a while, the bee's body was disintegrated into dust by the excessive wood spirit energy. Everyone watched the bee in Ryaji's palm turn directly into ashes, and could not help but feel the horror of wood spirit energy. But you don't have to worry, only after mastering wood spirit energy to a certain extent can you make the amount of wood spirit energy reach a fatal level. For you beginners, it should not be possible to treat others in the short term. At most you can help yourself regulate your body and prevent fatigue. Also, wood spirit energy also has detoxification effects, but this also requires mastering the breathing to a certain level. As he spoke, Ryaji could not help but look at Shinobu Koko. Shinobu Koko used poison, so this wood spirit energy was also relatively restrained by her ability. In general, the more proficient you are in wood spirit energy, the more it can become a breathing technique that is extremely restrained by demons. If used properly, it can directly kill demons. Even if it cannot kill them, wood spirit energy will affect the demon's recovery and regeneration ability, and can weaken the demon's strength. But these are not within the scope of what Hinaki and Kirya need to master. What you need to learn is still using wood breathing to regulate your bodies and mainly treat. Now we start the formal learning. After Ryaji said a bunch, he then began the formal teaching and practical stage. Ryaji first demonstrated the unique breathing frequency of wood breathing at a relatively slow pace, and then asked everyone to follow his breathing rhythm. At first, everyone's breathing was very disordered. Ryaji was not in a hurry about this, and made the correct repetition again and again, so that they could remember the unique frequency of wood breathing. This process lasted for half an hour. Although everyone still had not mastered it, they had a general frequency, but many details could not be completely mastered. Ryaji would not feel anything if Shinobu Koko and Kaneo could not learn it. After all, it would not have much impact on them. But Hinaki and Kirya must learn it, because wood breathing was of great help to their weak bodies. Perhaps they could use the help of wood breathing to be like normal people. Afterwards, Ryaji stopped, and then began one-on-one special guidance. The first to start was Kaguya Yubayashiki's son Kirya. Ryaji first let Kirya start wood breathing by himself, without his guidance. Kirya also seriously recalled the frequency of wood breathing, and then began to breathe, but the frequency he remembered was incomplete, and his body had not yet adapted to this breathing frequency, so it was completely out of tune. However, Ryaji was not angry, but rather carefully pointed out the wrong places to Kirya, and then helped him correct it little by little. Under Ryaji's correction, Kirya also had obvious improvements. The frequency synchronization rate reached the point of 30%. However, it was not possible to let Kirya master it all at once, so he let him stop practicing, and then rest for a while. 557, Chapter 557. Hinaki was a little better than her younger brother Kirya, which made Ryaji quite happy. After that, it was Shinobu Koko's turn. Shinobu Koko's problem was not only that the synchronization rate was not high, but without Ryaji's guidance, Shinobu Koko would habitually use her insect breathing. Even with Ryaji's reminder, Shinobu Koko still found it difficult to correct it for a while. This was also a very normal situation. After all, insect breathing had become Shinobu Koko's body's instinct, and instinct was difficult to change. So this could only be guided slowly, and if it really did not work, then she could only give up. This was also something that could not be helped. Kaneo's situation was similar. Ryaji was not anxious at all. So he proceeded with the second round of guidance. Although the process was a bit boring, everyone was learning very calmly. Besides teaching wood breathing, Ryaji still went to Kyojuro Rengoku and Uzui Tengen to treat them with wood breathing regularly, just like yesterday. Shinobu Koko could only research wood breathing with Hinaki and Kirya every day because she was injured and had nothing to do. Kaneo's class time was relatively short, because in addition to going to see Tanjiro regularly, she also had physical training every day, to maintain the strength of her muscles, and the flexibility of her body. This was also to deal with possible battles at any time. If he did not do physical training for a long time, the functions of various aspects of the body would decline linearly, and the decline of function was fatal for a demon hunter. And this decline was not irreversible, because the reason for the decline was only a lack of exercise, so even after the function declined, the body's function could still return to its peak state after exercising again. But the decline in function caused by age or injury was irreversible, because with age, the body's function would decline, and this decline could not be compensated for by physical training. The only thing that could be compensated was to train the breathing to the extreme, so that the degradation of function could be delayed. Like Shinobu Koko, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Uzui Tengen because of injuries, and like Tanjiro and Zenitsu Agatsuma, because they were in a coma and could not do physical training, during this period, their functions would slowly decline, and they could only wait until they recovered before they could exercise their physical fitness back. Ryaji did not need to be so troublesome, because Ryaji could rely on wood breathing to keep his functions in the most prosperous state. So physical training was just a formality for Ryaji, because Ryaji did not need to maintain the best state of physical fitness through physical exercise. Time flew by. Hattori Kyujo, whose injuries were not too serious, had recovered almost completely after half a month, and she also began to carry out her post-injury recovery training. Ryaji's credit was naturally there for Hattori Kyujo to recover so quickly. During this half-month, Tanjiro and Zenitsu were still in a coma, and Nezuko's situation was also the same. Ryaji was also helpless about this, because there was nothing wrong with their bodies, but their consciousness was in a deep sleep. As for how long they would sleep, Ryaji could not say for sure. All he could do now was wait. 558 Chapter 558 During these 2 weeks, Hinaki and Kiria had also roughly grasped the frequency of wood breathing, but because the frequency accuracy was not high, and they could not maintain it continuously, they could not produce a rhythm. Even if a rhythm was produced, it would disappear quickly and could not be maintained. And after overcoming the habit of instinctively using insect breathing, Shinobu Koko had also been able to roughly remember the frequency of wood breathing, but she would also make mistakes in a certain frequency, which would lead to the inability to produce a rhythm. Kaneo's progress was much slower. This was not because she was not diligent in learning, but because the breathing technique could not be practiced on its own when it could not cause a rhythm, because doing so would only deviate more and more from the correct breathing frequency, making it more difficult to correct later. And Kaneo also had a lot of things to do every day, so the time she spent in class was less than others. However, Kaneo had also overcome the habit of instinctively using flower breathing. This could also be considered a kind of progress. In fact, Kaneo was very hardworking. After knowing the wonderful use of wood breathing, Kaneo seemed to want to master wood breathing even more than others. After recovering, Hattori Kyujo was very curious about Inashuk's special training situation during these 2 weeks, so she found Inashuk. And when she found Inashuk, Inashuk was practicing the 100-meter sprint. Charge forward. Charge forward. She saw Inashuk roaring and desperately running back and forth. Hattori Kyujo stood aside, watching quietly, and did not immediately disturb Inashuk. It was not until Inashuk stopped running tired that Hattori Kyujo walked over, and asked Inashuk, who was panting, "Inashuk, what are you running back and forth for?" Hearing these words, Inashuk looked at Hattori Kyujo, and after seeing Hattori Kyujo standing in front of him, Inashuk could not help but feel a little happy, and then asked her, "Kyujo, your injuries are healed. Have Tanjiro and Zenitsu woken up?" "My injuries are healed. Tanjiro and Zenitsu are still in a coma. Captain Ryaji doesn't know when they will wake up. Senior Ryaji has also reformulated a new training plan for Shinichi and the others, to help them improve their strength." Hattori Kyujo explained the general situation to Inashuk. After speaking, Hattori Kyujo asked again, "What kind of training are you doing by running back and forth?" "I'm trying to develop a new move." Inashuk replied. It was not an exaggeration for Inashuk to say that he wanted to develop a new move, because the beast breathing that Inashuk used was what he learned from wild boars. It was a new breathing technique that was independent of the 5 major breathing techniques, just like wood breathing. Therefore, it was not unfounded for Inashuk to say that he wanted to develop a new move. After all, this beast breathing only belonged to Inashuk. Because the moves that Inashuk used were all developed by himself, they would look simple, and there was no mastery to speak of. This was actually because of Inashuk's thinking. Inashuk's brain could not develop particularly profound and complicated things, and would not develop such unfathomable things. Only simple and practical moves were the most practical in his eyes. But because Inashuk's moves were too simple, they seemed a bit inadequate when facing the upper moon demons, so Inashuk had the idea of developing new moves. 559, Chapter 559. Besides feeling that the previous moves could not effectively deal with the upper moon demons, Inashuk's development of new moves was partly influenced and inspired by Ryaji and Zenitsu Agatsuma. Because Ryaji's Rengoku Meteor and Zenitsu Agatsuma's Thunderclap and Flash had caused very considerable damage to the demons, Inashuk felt that it was also necessary for him to master this extremely fast and powerful blitz. Therefore, Hattori Kyujo saw Inashuk's sprint shuttle run just now. This was also to strengthen the strength of his legs, and improve his speed. After all, the speed of a blitz must not be slow. Hattori Kyujo could not help but feel that Inashuk was very powerful when she heard that Inashuk was developing a new move. For the users of the 5 major breathing techniques, Hattori Kyujo knew that the breathing moves contained the wisdom of countless predecessors, and the moves could not be developed by just anyone. Therefore, when she heard that Inashuk was developing his own new move, Hattori Kyujo only had admiration in her heart. "Then how is the progress?" Hattori Kyujo asked with concern. "There is no breakthrough progress yet." Inashuk also answered very directly, and did not deliberately want to say that he was very powerful in front of Hattori Kyujo. Inashuk's answer did not surprise Service Kyujo too much, but seeing that Inashuk's tone did not show any discouragement, he would obviously not give up so easily. And at this time, Inashuk asked Hattori Kyujo again, "Kyujo, can you also do that move of white-haired Aniki where he is covered in flames? Can you demonstrate it for me to see?" Hearing these words, Hattori Kyujo then thought of flame breathing, Form 9, Rengoku Meteor. This move was a move that would ignite flames all over the body. "Are you talking about Rengoku Meteor? There is no problem with demonstrating it, but I have to wait until I have warmed up my body," Hattori Kyujo replied. After lying in bed for half a month, Hattori Kyujo's function had declined to a certain extent, and the muscles of her whole body were in a sleep state. If she did not warm up her body and awaken her body's muscles, it would be easy to strain her muscles if she used Rengoku Meteor in this state. After speaking, Hattori Kyujo immediately began to warm up. Inashuk did not urge her, and waited quietly. After warming up, Hattori Kyujo gestured to Inashuk, "Watch carefully." Hearing these words, Inashuk looked at Hattori Kyujo intently, and the stock Kyujo had already posed for the release of the move, and flames began to appear all over her body. "It's coming," Inashuk murmured. In an instant, Hattori Kyujo's figure turned into a meteor and scurried out hundreds of meters away. Although Hattori Kyujo could not show the full power of Rengoku Meteor, this was enough for Inashuk to gain inspiration from it. Inashuk then quickly ran over, and then asked Hattori Kyujo, "Kyujo, what are the key points of this move? How can you achieve such a fast flashing speed?" Hearing these words, Hattori Kyujo calmed her breath, and then said, "It is to flow the rhythm of the breath throughout the meridians of the body, while accelerating the flow of blood, and then use the waist as the core, and the knees as the core force points, under the drive of the waist, use breathing to make the muscles of the legs like a spring, contract to the extreme, and then suddenly release. The body will scurry out at an extremely fast speed. But I haven't done it to the extreme. Captain Ryaji may be clearer than me about the mysteries of Rengoku Meteor," Hattori Kyujo then added. Hattori Kyujo was also very patient and explained the key points of Rengoku Meteor to Inashuk, and Inashuk also firmly remembered it in his heart word for word. In the days that followed, Hattori Kyujo trained with Inashuk, and also explored the development of his new moves with Inashuk. 560, Chapter 560. Inside the Infinity Castle, a woman with long hair draped over her shoulders, covering her face, was kneeling in a room, holding a lute in her arms. Although it could be seen from this woman's posture that her figure was very graceful, the type that men would want to press under them when they saw her. However, because the woman's long hair was draped over her shoulders and covered her face, it gave off a very strange feeling. As a breeze blew up the hair in front of the woman's face was revealed. It was a face with only one eye, and that eye was in the center of the five senses, and it was several times larger than a normal person's eye, looking extremely strange. And around that eye, there were many bulging veins, spreading around the cheeks. In that huge eyeball, there was also a character, 4. If you did not look at the huge eye in the center of the face, the woman's other facial features were very normal and delicate. A cherry-like small mouth, a pretty face, and a small nose. It could be said that as long as you blocked the woman's weird huge one eye, and only looked at the lower half of her face, it would definitely be a beauty embryo. And this woman with a huge eye in the center of her face, and a character of 4 on her eye, was Upper Moon 4 of the 12 Kazuki, Nakame. Nakame was also the contact person used by Muzan Kibatsuji to summon other upper moons or lower moons to hold meetings, and was one of the female demons favored by Muzan Kibatsuji. With Daki's death, Nakame also became the only female among the upper moon demons. Nakame was also the most special existence among the 12 Kazuki. She was the only upper moon demon who could not participate in a face-to-face battle with the Demon Slayer Corps. Because Nakame's duties, in addition to entertaining Muzan Kibatsuji, issuing task instructions to the upper and lower moons for Muzan Kibatsuji, and the duty of summoning the upper and lower moons, Nakame's greatest use was to collect intelligence, to collect all the intelligence that Muzan Kibatsuji needed. As Nakame played the lute in her hand, the surrounding space changed. This ability was a bit like the ability of the former lower moon 6. But obviously, as an upper moon, Nakame's ability was naturally more powerful. Although they both belonged to the space type of ability, Nakame could connect spaces in different places, not only limited to changing the angle state of a space. That is to say, As long as Nakame had laid down a blood demon art, Nakame could freely control that space, and connect two non-interfering spaces together. This was also why Nakame could summon the upper and lower moons. Because the places where the upper moons landed were all spaces that Nakame could control, so even if all the upper moons were not in the same place, they could still use this method to allow the upper moons to gather together as quickly as possible. And because Nakame had to constantly run the blood demon art to maintain her connection with space, Nakame's own combat power was not strong, and even could not reach the combat power of the lower moon demons. But this did not mean that Nakame was very easy to deal with. This was said in the case that Nakame did not use her own blood demon art. If Nakame used blood demon art, then there was no chance to get close to Nakame at all, because Nakame could transfer the opponent to another space at any time. In this way, they could not even touch Nakame, let alone kill Nakame. Therefore, compared to other upper moons, perhaps Nakame was the most difficult to deal with. 561, Chapter 561. As a series of Nakame's lute sounds rang out, all the upper moon demons except for Daki and Jayataro appeared in those intertwined spaces, some of which were floating upside down in the air. The most familiar were Kokushibo and Akeza, because they were the core executors of the Mugen Train and Entertainment District missions, but both missions were unsuccessful. However, Kokushibo and Akeza were not in the same space. Another three upper moons, one of them was a refined youth with long yellow hair and holding an iron fan, and was also the culprit who killed Hattori Kyujo's relatives. Upper Moon 2, Doma. Upper Moon 4, Hentengu, was an old man who was lying on the ground like a beast, with a protruding big cell on his forehead, and two sharp horns on both sides of the protruding big cell, especially like a fierce ghost in the underworld. Hentengu was probably the oldest looking among all the upper moon demons. The reason why it was said that he was the oldest looking was because Kokushibo, who was the first to be wooed by Muzan Kibutsuji to become the head of the upper moon of the 12 Kazuki, was probably the one with the oldest qualifications. Upper Moon 5, Gyoko, was like a hermit crab, living in a pot. And after Gyoko revealed his head from the pot like Aladdin's lamp, it was then known that this guy's appearance was even more disgusting and ugly than Hentengu. If you were to rank the appearance of the upper moon of the 12 Kazuki, Gyoko would definitely be at the bottom, and the most beautiful would be Doma, Upper Moon 2, who retained his human appearance. Ranking second was Akeza, who also retained his human appearance. If it were not for Kokushibo's 6 eyes, Kokushibo's appearance might have ranked first or second, so Kokushibo was ranked third because of the number of his eyes. As for Hentengu, he was definitely the second to last existence. If Daki, Upper Moon 6, had not died, then Daki's appearance would definitely rank first. After all, Daki was also a famous Warren in the entertainment district during her lifetime. The reason why Gyoko's appearance was disgusting was because not only were his facial features ugly, but there were 2 mouths in the place where his eyes were supposed to be, and the lips were green. And his eyes became single, and grew in the center of his forehead. His appearance was disgusting, and there was no better adjective to describe it. After all the upper moons gathered in the space connected by Nakame, a small boy in Western clothing appeared in front of these upper moon demons, and was not afraid of these upper moon demons of various shapes at all. And the upper moon demons, led by Kokushibo, were not surprised at all by the appearance of this small boy, and all the upper moons were extremely respectful to this small boy, and they all saluted him. Master. Because Muzan Kibutsuji's name was a taboo, the upper moons could only simply call Muzan Kibutsuji Master. And this small boy was Muzan Kibutsuji, although it was not the same person as the one seen in the entertainment district last time, but the appearance of the master in the entertainment district was just Muzan Kibutsuji's incarnation and disguise. It could be said that as long as Muzan Kibutsuji was willing, it would be no problem for him to turn into a dog. 562, Chapter 562. However, as the king of demons, turning into a dog was indeed a loss of identity. And from Muzan Kibutsuji's current appearance as a child, he should be a child from a wealthy family. This also showed that Muzan Kibutsuji was a person who paid great attention to his status and quality of life. It was absolutely impossible for him to turn into a dog and appear in front of the upper moon of the 12 Kazuki. And Muzan Kibutsuji in his child form had a gloomy expression at this time, and his gaze was focused on Akeza. Akeza knew that Muzan Kibutsuji was glaring at him, but he did not dare to think anything in his heart at this time, and he did not dare to look up at Muzan Kibutsuji, because at such a close distance, Muzan Kibutsuji could read the inner thoughts of any upper moon. The reason why Muzan Kibutsuji could read minds was also because every upper moon, or rather every demon, had Muzan Kibutsuji cells in their body. At such a close distance, Muzan Kibutsuji's perception of his own cells was naturally extremely strong, so there was no difficulty in peeking into the inner thoughts of the upper moon through his own cells. And this kind of mind reading could only be done at a very close distance. Once the distance was pulled away, Muzan Kibutsuji would not be able to read minds, he could only share vision. Sharing vision was also one of Muzan Kibutsuji's abilities. As long as the demon maintained contact with Muzan Kibutsuji could obtain his visual information. That is to say, although Muzan Kibutsuji could not interfere in the battle in the entertainment district, he had witnessed the entire process. Although Muzan Kibutsuji knew that the failure of the mission could not only be blamed on Akaza, Akaza had guaranteed Muzan Kibutsuji before carrying out the mission. Without this guarantee, perhaps Muzan Kibutsuji would not have been so angry. There was naturally no problem with Kokushibo. He had seriously injured 3 pillars by himself. If it were not for Ryaji's timely arrival, Kokushibo would definitely have been able to solve the 3 pillars of the Demon Slayer core. In this way, this mission could not be considered unsuccessful, so Muzan Kibutsuji did not intend to hold Kokushibo accountable. And Daki was already dead. The only person who could be held accountable was Akaza. If Muzan Kibutsuji did not ask about this at all, it would definitely affect his own prestige. Therefore, even if he did not solve Akaza, he had to make him suffer. Akaza, do you remember how you guaranteed me? Muzan Kibutsuji asked Akaza coldly. I know. Akaza replied. But it seems that you have not fulfilled your guarantee to me. Muzan Kibutsuji said coldly again. That is the case, but the situation has changed. That demon hunter called Ryaji is much more weird than imagined. He used many abilities that we don't know, and his attacks can also make my regeneration and recovery ineffective. Akaza then explained cautiously. Is this your reason for running away? Muzan Kibutsuji's voice became cold again. If I don't run, it still won't change anything, and it will only increase the losses. Akaza continued to explain. Although Akaza was right, if Akaza did not run away at that time, he would definitely have died under Ryaji's knife. However, Ryaji might have missed the chance to save people because of delaying 1 or 2 seconds. Even if Tanjiro did not die, the Demon Slayer core would have lost 3 pillars. 563, Chapter 563. What losses can I have with trash like you? Muzan Kibutsuji coldly retorted, his words carrying dissatisfaction and ridicule towards Akaza. As soon as Muzan Kibutsuji finished speaking, a large amount of blood gushed out from Akaza's 7 orifices, and then he became extremely painful, covering his neck, and curling up on the ground, as if he was about to die. This was actually a show of force that Muzan Kibutsuji gave to Akaza. Although Muzan Kibutsuji did not intend to kill Akaza, physical punishment was indispensable in addition to verbal accountability. The reason why Akaza was like this was that Muzan Kibutsuji was controlling his own cells in Akaza's body, destroying Akaza's body. As long as Muzan Kibutsuji was willing, Akaza would die on the spot, without any ability to resist. Just when Akaza was about to be unable to bear it, Muzan Kibutsuji left Akaza with a breath. Akaza looked extremely embarrassed and lying on the ground. The other upper moons did not speak, and did not care about Akaza's situation. Even if you could delay a little longer, Kokushibo would not have returned empty-handed. Your actions not only did not reduce my losses, but made my plan this time a complete failure. Muzan Kibutsuji continued to hold Akaza accountable. It's all that Jayatero's fault. If he hadn't gone to find Daki at that time, I wouldn't have been forced back by Ryaji, and Daki wouldn't have had any life-threatening danger. Those 2 idiots, it was obviously safest to separate, but they insisted on getting together, giving Ryaji a chance to cut off their necks at the same time. Akaza, who had recovered from the brink of death, said weakly. Akaza's words were to push the responsibility onto the dead Daki and Jayatero. By doing so, he also wanted to divert Muzan Kibutsuji's attention and reduce his own responsibility. Hearing these words, Muzan Kibutsuji could also guess Akaza's intention in saying this, but Muzan Kibutsuji did not intend to expose Akaza. After all, it was still useful to keep him now. Muzan Kibutsuji also knew in his heart that the reason why Akeza failed, in addition to Ryaji being too powerful, was also because Jayataro had left the team without permission. If Jayataro had not been in a hurry to meet up with Daki at that time, but had been with Akeza, then he would definitely have been able to delay Ryaji. Even if Daki had not successfully killed Tanjiro, it would not have mattered, because in this way, Kokushibo would definitely have been able to kill the 3 pillars of the Demon Slayer Corps, which would have been a great loss to the Demon Slayer Corps. I don't want to hear you say these useless things. I don't want you to run away again, then either die directly outside, or I will personally solve you, you useless trash. The upper moon of the 12 Kazuki doesn't need useless trash. Muzan Kibutsuji did not want to continue to pursue the matter. He had given Akeza the lesson he should have given, and it was meaningless to continue to dwell on this matter. The things that had already happened could not be changed. Muzan Kibutsuji was very clear about this. Yes. Akeza, who had luckily escaped death, responded. Anyway, as long as he was not asked to deal with Ryaji, anything was fine. Akeza did not want to do this kind of thankless task again. Master, is that Ryaji really that powerful? To actually make Akeza fail every time? At this time, Doma, Upper Moon 2, asked Muzan Kibutsuji with great interest. 564, Chapter 564. According to the intelligence gathered from these 2 times, Ryaji is not only powerful, but also has unpredictable methods, and I don't know if he used all his abilities this time in the entertainment district. If not, then Ryaji will be an enemy more terrifying than the entire Demon Slayer Corps. Akeza has already suffered. If you encounter him, you must not underestimate him. Muzan Kibutsuji then reminded the other upper moons. No matter how powerful a demon hunter is, if he can't use breathing, then he is a tiger with its teeth pulled out, not worth worrying about. I think the position of Upper Moon 3 is too comfortable. It's time to change people. Gyoko, Upper Moon 5, said very ignorantly. Hearing these words, Akeza did not refute. He had an attitude of, if you're so great, then you go. If it was really that simple, would it be your turn? During the Mugen train incident, even if he was no match for Ryaji, Ryaji would definitely have died in Kokushibo's hands. Ryaji is not so powerful because of breathing. His abilities are even more weird than demons. Even without breathing, killing you is as easy as turning over your hand. Muzan Kibutsuji also poured a bucket of cold water on Gyoko's head. This could not help but make Gyoko a little embarrassed. After all, since Muzan Kibutsuji had spoken, if he continued to show off, then he would be slapping himself in the face. Such a powerful person, it's a pity that he can't be used by me. This is really a never-ending trouble. Muzan Kibutsuji could not help but say with emotion. After saying with emotion, he became disappointed. Master, there is no need to worry too much. No matter how powerful that Ryaji is, he is just a mortal body. No matter how powerful he is, he will eventually become a fleeting cloud with age. Hantengu, Upper Moon 4, then comforted Muzan Kibutsuji at this time. That's all for the Demon Slayer Corps. About the Blue Spider Lily, do you have any clues? Don't tell me there are still none. It's been hundreds of years. I've given you enough time. Muzan Kibutsuji then asked. Master, although I'm not very sure yet, I have discovered some clues here. Gyoko then said to Muzan Kibutsuji with a grin. As soon as Gyoko finished speaking, his head was directly torn off by Muzan Kibutsuji, and then he said coldly, don't use your unfounded, keep people on suspense news to fool me. My head is actually in Master's palm. I'm really excited. After Gyoko's head was torn off, he was instead extremely happy. After a while, Muzan Kibutsuji then threw Gyoko's head out, and then said, after confirming the news, go with Hantengu and Doma. I hope you don't disappoint me this time. Yes. Your subordinate obeys. Hantengu then responded. What news? Let me know too. Can I go too? It should be a very fun thing. Doma could not help but become curious when he saw Muzan Kibutsuji being secretive. Muzan Kibutsuji ignored Doma, and then with a sound of Nakame playing the lute in her hand, Muzan Kibutsuji disappeared in front of the upper moons. This gathering of the upper moons also came to an end with Muzan Kibutsuji's departure. Muzan Kibutsuji did not send Akeza to carry out this mission again. It was estimated that he was scared by Akeza, and did not dare to reuse him. As for Kokushibo, although he had also returned empty-handed twice, Muzan Kibutsuji had no doubts about his ability. The reason why he did not continue to dispatch Kokushibo to carry out this operation was that Muzan Kibutsuji wanted to verify whether Doma's strength had improved over the years. 565, Chapter 565. Tanjiro woke up after being in a coma for more than a month, while Zenitsu Agatsuma woke up a few days earlier than Tanjiro. Zenitsu Agatsuma, who had woken up, immediately got tired of being with Aoi Kenzaki, and the affectionate appearance of the two was enviable. At the same time, Zenitsu Agatsuma also immediately began to receive functional recovery training. The first person Tanjiro saw when he woke up was Kaneo. After seeing Kaneo, Tanjiro could guess that he had returned to headquarters. Tanjiro's memory suddenly returned to the moment when he fell asleep in the stone cave. At that time, because no one was talking, the atmosphere was extremely quiet except for the sound of rain outside. Tanjiro also gradually fell asleep in that state. Tanjiro did not have a sense of time for how long he had been asleep, but from the fact that he had returned to headquarters, it was clear that the time should not be too short, so Tanjiro could not help but ask Kaneo, "Kaneo, how long have I been asleep?" 48 days. Kaneo replied with preparation. This time was still counted after Tanjiro returned to headquarters. Kaneo had kept the daily companionship in her heart. Hearing these words, Tanjiro was also very surprised. He had actually been asleep for so long, which made him puzzled. His injuries at that time were not serious. It was just that after using Hinokamai Kagura breathing, his body was overloaded and consumed too much. How could he have been in a coma for so long? So many things must have happened during this long coma. What was the situation with Uzui Tengen? Kaneo, what is the situation with Uzui-sensei? What is the situation with Kyujo? Tanjiro could not help but care about the situation of others, and for Ryaji, Tanjiro was not too worried, because Ryaji was definitely the one who would not have an accident. Faced with Tanjiro's questions, Kaneo told Tanjiro about the situation after Ryaji came back, and what had happened in general during this month. After listening to Kaneo's narration, Tanjiro then knew the final battle situation. He did not expect that the three pillars working together would not be a match for the head of the upper moons, Kokushibo. However, it was good that everyone was fine. Thinking that everyone had a very fulfilling time during his month-long coma, and was busy with his affairs, Tanjiro was also very happy in his heart. Kaneo, take me to see Miss Koko, Rengoku-sensei, and Uzui-sensei. Tanjiro could not wait to visit the seriously injured Shinobu Koko, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Uzui Tengen. I'll tell everyone that you're awake. You've been sleeping for so long, your body must be stiff. Kaneo said to Tanjiro. After speaking, Kaneo got up and left. Tanjiro did not say much, and could only listen to Kaneo's arrangement. Afterwards, Kaneo spread the news that Tanjiro had woken up. Before long, a large group of people gathered in the ward where Tanjiro was. The people who learned the news were Ryaji, Shinobu Koko, Kyojuro Rengoku, Uzui Tengen and his three wives, Zenitsu Agatsuma, Aoi Kenzaki, Inashuk and Hattori Kyujo, Kiyoshi, Sumi, and Nao. And Murata and others from the Zanjutsu second squad were not at headquarters because they were out on a mission again. Tanjiro looked at the large group of people, and could not help but feel a warmth in his heart, and a warm smile appeared on his face. If there was a camera in that era, it was estimated that everyone would have taken a group photo as a souvenir. 566, Chapter 566. Tanjiro, you kid finally woke up. If you didn't wake up again, we would have thought you were really going to become a vegetable. A hearty voice rang out first, and the speaker was the very sunny Kyojuro Rengoku. After more than a month of treatment, Kyojuro Rengoku's external injuries had almost recovered. The only thing affecting his movement was his thigh, which had not completely recovered and had been reconnected. At this time, Kyojuro Rengoku's thigh was still fixed with a hard cast, and he was sitting in a wheelchair with one leg straightened. One of Uzui Tengen's wives was pushing the wheelchair for Kyojuro Rengoku, and even without the care of Uzui Tengen's wife, Kyojuro Rengoku still had a certain ability to take care of himself. Compared to Uzui Tengen's situation, he was not so good. In addition to a cast on one foot, both arms were also in casts. It could be said that Uzui Tengen still did not have the ability to take care of himself, and had to rely on his wife to feed him. Shinobu Koko's situation remained the same. One arm was also in a cast and hanging around her neck. It could be said that among the three, Uzui Tengen was the most difficult to recover. Tanjiro, I heard from Makio that you are very brave. You were able to jump off the cliff without regard for your own safety to hug her. You helped save my wife. Besides brother Ryaji, your contribution is also indispensable. Uzui Tengen then praised. Tanjiro, Kaneo has been guarding you every day. You must not let Kaneo down. Otherwise, I will be the first to not spare you. Shinobu Koko also said at this time. Tanjiro, if you don't wake up again, I'm going to leave you in the dust. I've already developed a new move. I'm amazing, right? Inashuk then began to brag to Tanjiro that he had developed a new move, looking very proud. Tanjiro, wake up and quickly do recovery training with me. Aoi-chan has prepared a perfect tonic soup for you. Zenitsu Agatsuma said with a smirk at this time. This perfect tonic soup, although it was very helpful for the recovery of the body, the only drawback was that it was extremely difficult to drink. And every member who was going to undergo recovery training had to drink this perfect tonic soup, so this perfect tonic soup could be said to be the nightmare of all the members who came to the Butterfly Mansion to heal. No one could resist the destruction of this perfect tonic soup. Kiyoshi, Sumi, and Neo, the three little girls, stood by Tanjiro's hospital bed, and then said in unison, "Good luck, Tanjiro." Ryaji did not say anything to Tanjiro, but just watched Tanjiro quietly. Everyone's words touched the softness in Tanjiro's heart, and tears welled up in Tanjiro's eyes at once. "It's so good to have you," Tanjiro said from the bottom of his heart, wiping away his excited tears. Afterwards, Tanjiro also asked about the upper moon demons not being afraid of having their necks cut off. Ryaji, Shinobu Koko, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Uzui Tengen all answered Tanjiro. Because the others had not contacted Daki, they could only answer with possibilities. And Ryaji, who had contacted Daki and Jayataro, and had personally seen Jayataro split from Daki's body, gave a more accurate answer. In addition, the deaths of Daki and Jayataro also confirmed this guess of symbiosis. Tanjiro could be said to have a further understanding of the demons who were not afraid of having their necks cut off. And this lively atmosphere lasted for a long time, and then gradually subsided. Most people left after visiting Tanjiro. 567, Chapter 567. The day after Tanjiro woke up, he began to undergo functional recovery training. And because his Nichiren blade was damaged, Tanjiro immediately wrote a letter to Hagenjika, requesting him to forge a sword for him again. During the month that Tanjiro was asleep, Hinaki and Kiria, who came to the Butterfly Mansion to learn wood breathing, had also initially mastered wood breathing during this month. The frequency synchronization rate mastered by the siblings now could cause a rhythm, and the rhythm could also be maintained for a short period of time. Therefore, Hinaki and Kiria were now able to practice on their own. As for Shinobu Koko and Kaneo, Ryaji had added another lesson for them, to help Shinobu Koko and Kaneo use the two breathing techniques freely. To put it bluntly, it was to connect the newly mastered wood breathing with the original breathing without conflict. It was also adaptive training. Only when the body adapted to the existence of wood breathing would it not conflict with the original breathing. Otherwise, it would definitely affect the use of the original breathing. This was also a bottleneck to be faced when mastering two breathing techniques. If it could not be overcome, it meant that your physical condition could not master two breathing techniques, then you had to give up one of the breathing techniques. And Ryaji was still as busy as ever. In addition to teaching, he was also treating Shinobu Koko, Kyojuro Rengoku, and Uzui Tengen. A week after Tanjiro recovered, Tanjiro received a reply from his Kashigai crow. The content of the letter was some words saying that he had broken my sword again, I would kill you, it was unforgivable, and he would not forge a sword for him. Tanjiro was very troubled by receiving such a reply from Hagenjika, although this time it was not like the time on Mount Nadagumo, where the blade was directly broken, but the blade edge was damaged to that extent, it was obviously impossible to use it again. Even if he could barely use it, it would definitely be difficult to cut off the demons' necks, especially the upper moon demons. Helpless, Tanjiro could only take Hagenjika's reply and find Ryaji. Ryaji and Shinobu Koko were together, and after Tanjiro explained the matter, he handed Hagenjika's letter to Shinobu Koko. Shinobu Koko could not help but laugh as she looked at the letter in her hand with full of malice. Shinobu Koko's smile made Tanjiro even more puzzled. Hagenjika is really a unique swordsmith, Shinobu Koko said with a smile. Hearing these words, Tanjiro was also helpless, and then said, "Who told me to break 2 of his swords?" After speaking, Tanjiro looked at Ryaji again, and then asked, "Senior Ryaji, why doesn't your Nichiren blade break? Is my method of use wrong?" It is actually very normal for Nichiren blades to be damaged. Even for pillars, the Nichiren blades they use will be damaged. This is not a wrong method, but the demon's attack is too powerful, and the blade cannot withstand it. It is very reasonable for it to be damaged. Shinobu Koko then explained to Tanjiro at this time. Then why has Senior Ryaji never had such a situation? Tanjiro continued to ask. Faced with Tanjiro's questioning, Shinobu Koko looked at Ryaji, intending to let Ryaji himself answer. Immediately, Ryaji said, "The reason why my sword doesn't break has a lot to do with my own strength. When your attack is greater than or equal to the demon's attack, at this time, the blade itself is not very stressed. When your attack is not enough to confront the demon's attack, the demon's force will directly act on the blade, and if the blade is stressed too much, it will naturally be damaged." 568, Chapter 568. Ryaji's words hit Tanjiro quite hard. After all, Ryaji's words were nakedly saying that he was too weak, so the sword was damaged. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that Zenitsu's sword had never been damaged, which could not help but make Tanjiro smile bitterly. He did not expect that in the end, among the 3, Zenitsu's strength was the most powerful. If the reason why Zenitsu's Nichiren blade was not damaged on Mount Natagyumo last time was because Zenitsu did not encounter a powerful demon, then Zenitsu had also fought with the Upper Moon Demon in the Entertainment District this time, and even heard Inashuk say that after encountering Kokushibo's interception, Zenitsu entered a state of sleeping and opening his eyes, and fought back and forth with Kokushibo. Zenitsu's Nichiren blade was not damaged even after colliding with Kokushibo. And he only took one move from Daki, and the blade was damaged. The gap could be seen at a glance. Then what should I do now? Mr. Hagenjika is unwilling to forge a sword for me. Tanjiro switched back to the main topic and asked. Then ask another swordsmith to forge a sword for you. Shinobu Koko replied. Hearing these words, Tanjiro also felt that this method was good, but after thinking about it carefully, if he suddenly used a sword forged by another swordsmith, he was afraid that Hagenjika, who had a strong sense of self-esteem, would really kill him. After all, suddenly using a sword forged by another swordsmith was a kind of indirect belief that the sword forged by Hagenjika was of poor quality and easily broken. If Hagenjika, who loved swords as much as his life, really thought so, then he would probably really kill Tanjiro to commemorate the 2 swords that were broken by Tanjiro. That's not very good. I'm afraid Mr. Hagenjika will kill me directly. Tanjiro replied somewhat fearfully. Either go to the swordsmith village in person to find Hagenjika and chat with him face to face. If he really doesn't want to forge a sword for you, you can only change a swordsmith. Shinobu Koko said again. In this regard, Shinobu Koko, as a pillar, naturally knew more about it, and she had also been to the swordsmith village several times. And Ryaji did not speak, because Ryaji did not know the specific process for these things. Swordsmith village. Tanjiro heard this for the first time. It's the village where the swordsmiths live. Shinobu Koko explained again. Can I really go? Tanjiro's heart was also full of expectations. Ordinary members can't go, but you are now Rengoku's adopted son, so I can apply to the leader to let you go to the swordsmith village. Shinobu Koko replied again. Really? That's really troublesome. Tanjiro's heart could not help but become excited. Soon, Tanjiro looked at Ryaji again, and then asked, Senior Ryaji, do you want to come along? Hearing these words, Ryaji shook his head, and then said, I won't go. Shinobu, Rengoku, and Uzui still need my treatment. They are the core combat power of the Demon Slayer Corps, so I have to let them recover quickly. The reason why Ryaji did not go with Tanjiro was not only because he could not spare the time, but also because he felt that there was no need to go. Hearing these words, Tanjiro also felt that Ryaji was right, and did not force him. At this time, Ryaji took off the demon-slaying sword from his waist, and then put it on the table, and said, Since you don't have a sword to use for the time being, take it with you. Just in case. After all, the sword is equivalent to the life of a demon hunter. Tanjiro looked at the demon-slaying sword on the table, and his heart could not help but be shocked. 569, Chapter 569. Tanjiro knew what the demon-slaying sword meant, and also knew that the demon-slaying sword could inhibit the regeneration and recovery of demons, which was an ability that the Nichiren blade did not have, so it was no exaggeration to say that the demon-slaying sword was an incredible magic weapon. It was such an incredible magic weapon that Ryaji actually lent it to him. Although it was not a gift, being able to lend it to him was enough to show Ryaji's intention. As Ryaji said, weapons were another life of a demon hunter. If a demon hunter did not have a weapon, it was no different from losing his life. And Ryaji lending the demon-slaying sword to him had the meaning of handing his life over to Tanjiro, which naturally made Tanjiro feel flattered. Because Tanjiro was very afraid that he would break Ryaji's demon-slaying sword. After all, there was only one demon-slaying sword that could inhibit the recovery of demons. If it was broken, it might really be impossible to create a new demon-slaying sword. Although the demon-slaying sword was real, this meant that the demon-slaying sword could be created, otherwise the demon-slaying sword could not exist in reality. However, Tanjiro felt that the creation conditions of the demon-slaying sword must be very difficult to achieve, and there might not be the conditions to create a second one. Senior Ryaji, this thing is too precious. I'm afraid I'll break it. Tanjiro did not intend to accept it, and declined Ryaji. Tanjiro, you don't have to worry about this. The demon-slaying sword is not so easy to damage, use it with confidence. Since I dare to lend it to you, I have naturally considered it carefully. Ryaji then said. With these words from Ryaji, Tanjiro did not refuse any more, but expressed his gratitude to Ryaji, and took the demon-slaying sword in his hand. From Tanjiro's actions, it could be seen that he was very careful. After this, Shinobu Koko applied for Tanjiro to go to the swordsmith village, and early the next morning, a member of the Kakushi department found Tanjiro, and Tanjiro was already fully dressed. Not only did he bring Ryaji's demon-slaying sword, but he also brought Nezuko with him. Nice to meet you, I am the guide who will take you to the swordsmith village. The person who spoke to Tanjiro was a female Kakushi member, and as she spoke, the Kakushi member took out an eye mask, and plugs to plug the nose. Hello, I am Tanjiro Kamado, please take care of me. Tanjiro also politely replied to her. Please take care of me, it is not convenient for the guide to report her name, please forgive me. The Kakushi member also politely replied. After speaking, she began to put the eye mask and the nose plugs on Tanjiro. What is this for? Tanjiro did not resist, but asked in confusion. The village is very secretive, ordinary people are not allowed to know the location of the village, so I have to put an eye mask on you, and then I will carry you to the next transfer station. The guiding Kakushi member explained. Then why do you have to plug my nose? It's very inconvenient for me to breathe like this. Tanjiro asked again. Because your nose is very sensitive, you may remember the changes in smell along the way, and then rely on the smell to find the swordsmith village. The Kakushi teammate then replied. Afterwards, the Kakushi teammate did not say anything more, and carried Tanjiro on her back to the next transfer point. Because the route to the village was divided into many sections, and each section of the route was guided by different people, this also reduced the possibility of the route being exposed. After many transfers, Tanjiro finally arrived at the swordsmith village in the afternoon. 570, Chapter 570. The Kakushi teammate who brought Tanjiro to the final stop took off Tanjiro's eye mask and nose plugs, and Tanjiro then saw part of the village's appearance. The village was not too big, about 100 people in size, and because it was located in the mountains and forests, it had a sense of paradise. What a peaceful and serene place, and I also smell the scent of hot springs. Is there a hot spring in the village? Tanjiro could not help but say with emotion. Yes. Turn left over there, and go straight ahead to the village chief's house. Remember to say hello to the village chief, and let the village chief know that you, this guest, are visiting the swordsmith village. The Kakushi member in charge of the last stop also affirmed Tanjiro's guess, and then pointed a direction to Tanjiro. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Thank you very much. Tanjiro very politely thanked the Kakushi teammates in charge of the last battle. You're welcome, then I'll take my leave. The Kakushi member did not intend to stay any longer, and quickly left. Tanjiro did not stand still, but followed the guidance and looked for the place where the village chief lived. Soon, Tanjiro came to the outside of a residence, and then stood outside the residence and called out, "Is this the village chief's house in the swordsmith village? I am Tanjiro Kamado." After a while, a man wearing a fireman mask walked out of the residence. After Tanjiro saw someone come out, he said again, "Hello, I am Tanjiro Kamado. I am here to find Mr. Hagenjika, and also to visit the village chief. Come with me." The man did not talk nonsense with Tanjiro, but gestured for Tanjiro to follow him into the house. After speaking, he turned around and walked into the residence first, and Tanjiro also followed. Tanjiro was taken to a room, and there were already 3 people kneeling in the room. Among the 3, the one in the middle was a person with a physique like a child, and because he was also wearing a fireman mask, his appearance could not be seen. However, Tanjiro still knew the approximate age of this person through the wrinkles on the person's neck, being so old, and in the middle position, he was obviously the respected village chief. "Hello, Tanjiro. I am the village chief here, Techin Tekikuahara, please take care of me. The smallest in the village is me, and the most amazing is also me. In short, your head must touch the tatami to show your respect for me." Just as Tanjiro also knelt down opposite them, the thin old man in the middle greeted Tanjiro. Seeing that the village chief was so tough, Tanjiro also performed a great gift to him as required by the village chief. "Senior Techin, please take care of me." Seeing that Tanjiro was so obedient and followed his instructions, Techin Tekikuahara was also very happy in his heart, and then praised Tanjiro. "This child has a good personality. Come, here's some karantu for you." After speaking, one of the 2 strong men kneeling beside Techin Tekikuahara handed a basket containing karantu to Techin Tekikuahara from his side, and Techin Tekikuahara then handed it to Tanjiro. Tanjiro raised his head, took the basket, and then thanked, "Thank you, Senior Techin." After speaking, Tanjiro very supportively tasted the karantu in the basket. Watching Tanjiro eat, Techin Tekikuahara could not help but laugh, the smile carrying full of love.
Every novel listed in the description comes with permanent access to the audiobook on Telegram. You pay once, and if the novel is still ongoing, you'll receive all future updates automatically. No extra cost. Choose your novel from the description, then DM me on Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord. After payment via PayPal, Ko-Fi, or Patreon, you'll get instant access. Simple, secure, lifetime listening. Guys, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Your support means a lot.